I love the taste of bread, and I think it's really fun to make too. I enjoy kneading the dough, and it's one of those things you can make so many different types. Today I'm going to be making a cinnamon raisin bread, and the first step is you're going to have to take 1.5 cups of milk, put it in a small saucepan, and warm it up until it bubbles. Take your pan, put it on a low or medium low, and then pour in the 1.5 cups of milk. Now that the milk is bubbling, you're going to have to set it off to the side and let it cool until it's lukewarm. Alright, for this next part you need 1 cup of warm water, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Pour that into a mixing bowl. And then you need 1/2 ounce of yeast, fast acting, which is going to be 2 of the 1/4 ounce packages. So pour those in there. And then I would recommend using a dough hook because you're going to need it later when you're making the dough. But just mix the yeast and water together for a couple seconds. Let this sit for about 5 or 10 minutes and you're going to see it get really frothy. It's going to have a lot of bubbles, and that's when it's good. 5 or 10 minutes. Now that our yeast is kind of frothy in there, I added an egg. So lock it, mix the egg in.
And now another. We're going to add all these ingredients. Another egg in there. So this is 3 eggs total. Okay, now we add in the sugar. Let's have that whisk for a second. When you add the sugar, it's 1/2 cup. This is a stick of butter that we're going to add in. And it's supposed to be soft. Add a chunk at a time. We're going to add the dough hook back once we add the flour, but we do it before we add the flour because it's actually starting to make it into a bread consistency. Now we're going to add the milk slowly. From the pan. It's starting to actually cream everything together, especially the butter. After this, we're going to add 1 cup of raisins. So now we're going to measure out a teaspoon of salt. All dishes need salt to give it the actual flavor. But with salt, you want it to where like you don't need to add salt into the dish anymore. So you should add it. And now we're going to add 8 cups of flour slowly. It's easier to go from this angle. The flour to the table. Probably need a little more, but I think there would be enough. And then we take you want to just pull like that and then push. We're gonna put it in the bowl to let it rise, but let's oil it up a little bit. Then we're gonna put a towel over it to rise for a couple hours. Until double, basically, so it could take like an hour. Okay, now we're gonna cover it up with a towel. Put it in room temperature area.
To let this rise, I had to divide it into two separate entities of dough, which I'm now gonna recombine after they have risen, which might actually take a little while to get them together. Put some flour down on the surface before you roll it out because you don't want it to stick to the surface, even though it has been well oiled with our canola oil. Alright, at this point, you need to roll it out. You know, put some flour down again. You're going to want to roll it out into about a half-inch height rectangle. Roll from the center out. I don't even use the handles. Okay, now we've got the rectangle shape. It doesn't have to go all the way down to half an inch in thickness. I mean, right here is probably about 3/4 an inch, but that's probably good. Okay, now what you need to do is wet the dough with 2 tablespoons of white milk, which you can just lightly sprinkle on. This is going to help the sugar and cinnamon stick to it. Rub that some around on it. Alright, now we're going to add to this 3/4 cup of white sugar and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Sprinkle them on there. Dole it out liberally. Spread it out freely, not sporadically. Get it to the point where the topping is ubiquitous. Looks good. This is what gives the bread its sweetness. Bread. It needs to be about 3 inches thick in diameter when you're done rolling it, which this probably should be. So, keep it tight as you roll it, because you really want there to be a lot of spirals. So,
You left a raisin behind.
What happens? That looks pretty good. That's about 3 inches thick in diameter, give or take. Now we've got this huge loaf here. The recipe called for dividing it into 3 pieces. So,
Use a knife.
I know. So I'm going to use a butter knife. Oops. Kind of smells like a Cinnabon, which is cool if you like Cinnabons. There's one loaf. Alright, take our loaf pan. Probably you need to stretch these out a little more, or at least I do. Tuck the ends down after you stretch it out. Stick it in your loaf pan. Now you need to put a damp cloth on this and let this rise for another hour.
We're going to bake it and put it to 350. And now we're going to put this goodies in here. It will be in there for 45 minutes. Now we're going to open it up and check since the timer went off. And, let's see. Ooh. Looks about done. And that's what it's supposed to look like. So there you go. After a long time in the oven, it's ready and it needs to cool off now. Good eating.
Well, it looks good. At this point, if you want to brush it with some melted butter to add to the flavor, feel free. Help it shine and kind of give it that nice crispy outer layer. Mmm. Looks good. Looks good.